Hey guys, it's Lewis again. I know I just came off a walk away video, but I wanted to make a little statement. And I know a lot of people are thinking, what do you do after you walk away? So, in terms of liking art, what does that mean? What books can you possibly read that won't have an SJW commentary in it? I would say my personal favorites are Don DeLillo, um, Cormac McCarthy. He's a He-Man, so you can trust anything he writes about. Uh, Hemingway, I guess, but he's not my favorite. Uh, H.P. Lovecraft, H. Joseph Conrad, anyone that was alive before the rise, before the 70s, basically. Anyone before the 70s you can possibly trust that doesn't have an SJW commentary added to in between the lines. And I guess that's where I stand. I guess I have not I was banned from Twitter for saying a few mean things to Stephen King. So again, Stephen King has it's sort of a love-hate thing. Yeah, he did introduce me to reading, but you have to progress beyond that point of a favorite writer. If you're still reading Stephen King for all your life, I don't think you've never really read a book. And it's not to disrespect the readers of Stephen King, I disrespect his politics on the basis that he's acting like there's going to be a nuclear war when that's just not the case. He's just worried about his money going dry. That's all they care about. All they care about is this, that dollar. And I mean, he came from poor background. You know, he was originally, I think when he was in college, he wore his shoe. He couldn't even afford shoes. His toe pushed through the shoe. That's how poor he was. So it's sad. So it's wonderful to hear that someone gets famous, but then it's like after that, you start you there's the puppet strings. The puppet strings just start appearing, and it's like all they probably ever encouraged Stephen King to do was do the same thing. And I wish he would take his own advice and write something different, but no, he came from the '60s, and he's I from that perspective, it was well intentioned, but there's I just can't read him anymore, or I just can't read him anymore. Plus, I grew out of him, and after a few from 18 to about maybe the Dark Tower series is the only thing I liked of him. So it is kind of a sad thing to know about, someone who introduced me to reading, but uh, I would say as far as art, if you see anything the leftists are doing, do the opposite. If you see them, you know, praising abortion, is do the opposite. Write a story about protecting children because Lord knows we need to protect the future children because no, our parents are not going to be around after a while. And even in art too, that needs to be done. And I've been playing Metro Exodus, and I thought, wow, there's a real Christian message here about making good choices. About I'm going to spoil one part of it about not hurting religious people. There's a part of the game where if you want the good ending, you got to you got to stealth or run away from the religious people who are actively trying to kill you because they don't quote unquote know any better because they think, electricity is a sin. I'll spoil that. But there's a real message about being a peaceful warrior. So that's one thing to consider. And I don't think anyone's brought this up about Metro Exodus, but um, in some concerns, what do you do when you walk away from a group of people who don't represent artistic integrity anymore? What do they mean to your life? And if you're a writer, you should start making your own. If you're waking up out of a career of trying to do the right thing, trying to do, the PC thing, and you're not making money off of it, it's true. My first series, The Disintegrating Bloodline, which I'm now re-releasing, was so neutered and so disrespected. And some things about my editor were good, but he was only looking to sell it, and to sell something means you got to water down the wounds that are on that page on a character. No one wants to see a character hurting, and it's like, where's the struggle without some pain? That's what I just don't buy about SJW culture. It's asking the impossible. It's asking us to be neutered aliens with no real gender, no real thoughts, no real difference of opinion. That's what the left has become. And the art during the Obama administration was not hardcore at all. It was the exact opposite. And I think largely a lot of people who have left the left are just tired. They're just they don't watch the news anymore. And Milo Yiannopoulos proved that in his book Dangerous, is that the more they scream, the more they run away. So you as an artist, if you're really worth your salt, you really have to really question everything. You can't just sort of go along with the status quo and think you're making real art, because where's your integrity if nothing of you is in your art? If it has to meet some democratic, stance, as Bret Easton Ellis said on his podcast, art is not made by a democracy. Art is not made by a democracy. That's where real artists today are leaning more to center right. But what do you do when you don't see the thing that you want on the shelf? You create it. And that's what I'm inspiring others to do, is to create your own work, not follow politics that are not going to get you paid, are not going to get you anywhere towards happiness. So I think run away from politics and just live for art. That's what you must do if you're an artist. You can't follow any political leaning, but if your characters are on the left or the right, that's different, because that's a character. And there is a difference between putting politics into as the main message over the fact that this person disagrees with that person. That's fine, because that's called a conversation, because that needs to happen in art. It can't just be one-sided towards any political leaning. So art really must represent your own perspective and not from either academia or popular culture. Because part is where we have to look for our answers, and if we can't find it from the left, we got to make our own. So, yep, that's it. Thank you very much for watching.